Hello and welcome to Brave Talks. I'm Aidan and I will be your host for this episode. There is currently an estimated 200 to 500,000 trans people in the UK, many of whom have known they were trans from a young age, but may not have had the language or understanding of what that means until later in life, while others did not know until they were adults. To discuss this topic, I'm joined today by Serenity Westfield. So, grab a cup of tea or your favourite beverage. This is Brave Talks. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Brave Talks. Today I'm joined by Serenity. I'm thrilled. So who is Serenity?
I'm Serenity. I'm a 44-year-old trans woman and I work as a data architect.
I think what would be really amazing is, could you tell us a little bit about the journey that you've been on, kind of discovering who you are and what makes you up as a person?
It's actually been a very interesting 5 years. I always say that I should have realised that I was trans when I was younger, but I didn't have any kind of trans representation. There was no trans people in the media. I didn't even meet my first trans person myself until I was 36, by which point most of that had kind of been stuffed in a box. But then I started hanging around with a lot more queer people, and eventually that box kind of became violently unlocked, and very quickly realised shortly before my 40th birthday that crap, I am trans. I have to deal with this, and I wasn't willing to turn 40 still lying to myself or anyone else. So I went from realising I was trans to being out in the space of about a month and a half. There's no preamble, no slow build up. It's just, okay, I'm doing this, all in. And then over the course of the pandemic, as a lot of people did, sat at home with not a lot to do while I was on furlough, spent a lot of time browsing various social media apps, and very quickly realised that I am also neurospicy as hell, which feeds into that. And yeah, I don't think there's much left of the 39-year-old me that there was. I've pretty much rebuilt everything in the last 5 years.
And that's amazing. I mean, that sort of moment where you realise and say, I don't want to lie to myself anymore, I think that's incredible. So how did that impact your kind of personal life? What was the whole process that you've gone through over the last 5 years? I mean, what's it been like?
Well, I was quite lucky in that, so I'm polyamorous, but I had, after I got divorced in my mid-30s, I just decided that I was going to take a break from dating and just spend some time enjoying my own company. So by the time I came out, I'd actually only just got back into the dating scene. I was only dating one person who I knew was like fine with trans people, because they were the one that was taking me to some of these parties, and they were dating someone else who was trans. So there was not that much of a stress on the dating front. But one of the things that I remember saying in the post that I put on Facebook when I was coming out was, said, like, nothing's going to change. I'm just going to be wearing different clothes and using a new name. It's a lie. Absolute tosh. It's like I've spent the last few years in like holding up every aspect of my life and going, is this something that is still serving me? Is this something I'm still interested in? And if I'm not, I get rid of it and then find something to make the space. And yeah, there's been generally like the last 5 years, check everything, make sure it all still suits me, because there's a lot of stuff that I think I was doing. So one of the things with, like, certainly for me, for being trans is I grew up being told, you're a boy, boys like these things. And so I just assumed that I probably liked them too. So I started doing it. And then so there was so much that was just, actually, this isn't something I enjoy. This is not something that I want to be spending my time with. So it's been a real fun 5 years, chucking stuff out, finding new things that do fit.
And it's a continuous journey, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Exploring and trying to find that. Have there been any people that have helped you through this, that have been kind of significant to that kind of journey?
Yeah, quite a lot of people. So there's two groups of people that have been absolutely wonderful in this. Actually, I like three. So as I mentioned that I was polyamorous, there are a lot of gender diverse people in there, gender queer people in the polyamory scene. They've been great there's been some really good role models for me in that. The same with the goth scene, because there's an awful lot of trans and gender non-conforming goths out there. And the last and probably most important group is I play a card game called Netrunner. I got involved in running it about a year before I came out as trans, but it's a very queer game. There's a lot of queer people around. Like, as an organisation that we've had at one point, 60% of the group, the 80 people that run the game, didn't necessarily identify as cis. So they've all been really supportive. And in fact, that group were the first people I came out to after my partner, because I knew that they were going to be able to give me the support I needed.
Has it been challenging, that? Because it seems like there was the moment change for you was quite sudden, really. I mean, it maybe wasn't sudden for you, because I'm sure you were thinking about things in the past, but how did that impact your kind of day-to-day life? I mean, what was the change for you? I feel like that impact to your personal life is really interesting.
So a lot of it, my friend groups have completely changed as a result of this. While I do still see some of the people that I used to pre-transition, I don't see them anywhere near as much. I spend a lot of my time with other trans or other flavours of queer people, because it's so much more comfortable to be around people that you don't have to explain everything to. If I don't have to give someone a gender identity 101, that's really, really useful. Like, I'm absolutely fine to do so. Like, it's not a problem, but it's nice to not need to. And so there's not many people like so I live up in Bedford, and it's not a very queer town. There's no local events or anything like that. So my social life has switched from being fairly local to I spend most of my time in London or Cambridge, where there are local scenes.
Yeah. So how do you kind of make sure you care for yourself throughout this process, and also kind of the work-life balance as well? Because there's a lot of things you're wanting to address personally, but obviously at work we have these challenges. How do you address that? How do you work through that?
So I mean, I personally went down to 4 days a week. So there was a lot of stuff that I realised that I hadn't got to do. I didn't have a lot of queer friends before I came out, so like going and socialising with them, it became so important to me and to my mental well-being. And I was definitely burning the candle at both ends for a while, and work was also starting to pile up as well. So I just said to my boss, I said, I need to go down to 4 days a week. Like, I'll take the pay cut, but I have to do this because I can't keep trying to do everything. Yeah. So that was a big one for me. And also one of the things I've started doing is putting in rest days as an item on my to-do list, because I'm the kind of person that likes to be busy all the time. I like to be doing stuff. But if I have like on my list of things to do Thursday night, for example, Thursday night, relax. Like, don't do anything. Like, my schedule was blocked out for doing nothing. And that's been a real helpful for me, because otherwise I would just be like, oh, I'm not doing anything Thursday. Pop into London and see somebody. And then next thing I know, I'm coming back at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Did you find any with the kind of the IT industry while you were going in through that transition and becoming a trans woman? Were there any issues or challenges? Or
I think of all of the industries I could have worked in, the tech industry is probably the best, because it's almost a cliche at this point that your stereotypical trans girl is a programmer. So even if like there's not a lot of trans people in my office, like I am the only one as far as I'm aware. Almost everyone has met a trans person, so I'm not the first. So, and that actually makes a real difference. Although I'm still at the point, we're still at the point in society where you don't necessarily get introduced to everybody, but everybody knows who you are. So there are a large number of people at work who know my name and will come up and talk to me as if we've met I haven't been introduced. I have no idea who they are, but they know me because, oh, who's the trans girl? Oh, that's Serenity. Oh, okay, cool. And then they know my name, but I know that they're theirs. So that's something we still need to work on. But the tech industry's been like really good. There's a lot of industries out there that are far worse, and especially with the fact that a lot of us can work remote. That has made life a lot easier. Before I worked remote, especially when you're just coming, if you first come out, trying to get a makeup routine down, like it could take me like an hour in the morning to get my makeup to the point where I was happy with, which when I have to leave for work at 8 o'clock in the morning means I have to start doing that at 7. Yeah. Working remotely, I just don't turn my camera on. It's fine. I don't have to spend time doing my makeup. Although I have got it to the point where I could do it in 10 minutes now, but that's because I've been out for 5 years.
So have there been any occurrences where you felt particularly included or excluded because of this?
There's been a few situations where people have been talking about organising like a girls' night, and I've not been invited along to that, which sucks, to put it frankly. But generally, people are have been very good. Like everybody, I don't know if I've just worked with very nice people or if it's literally just the fact that our government and media have a problem with trans people, because most folk I meet don't. Like there's the odd exception. Like I don't know any trans person who hasn't been walking through the street and had shit shouted at them. But most people are absolutely fine. And in work, I've only really encountered a couple of people who were not even nasty, just a bit weird, to the point where they wouldn't be. I have had the standard misogyny that all women in tech get, which was weirdly gender affirming. Not nice, but fair enough if you're going to ignore my opinion because in my head, your head, I'm a girl. That's fine, but not fine. But
that's a complicated one.
It's a real complicated emotion coming out of that. But generally people have been pretty good and pretty supportive.
It's really positive to hear that. I mean, that's really great. But is there anything else? Because there won't be just people in the IT industry that will kind of watch these sort of these topics. Is there anything else that employees or employers can do to help, managers or anything in the workplace to kind of make things easier or better or be more supportive?
Don't overdo it is a big thing. So when I was preparing for coming on here, I was talking to a bunch of my friends, and I said, okay, what are your thoughts that I should try and reflect? And almost every single one said that they've encountered someone who's been overzealously supportive, and it just makes it feel like there's a spotlight on you for no reason. Just treat us the same as you would do everyone else. If we do well, celebrate us. If we do badly, call us out. Like just generally try and be normal about it. Obviously there's the standard, like if you hear anyone saying anything, then call them out. But I would like to think that people would do that whether or not they have a trans colleague, because that's the kind of thing that a good ally does. There's always like I want people around me who would defend me in a room I'm not in. It's the phrase that I think covers that nicely. But just treat people like you would everyone else. Yeah,
which is the goal, really.
Yeah,
so that's
I'm not special. I'm just when I was born, the doctor got confused about what gender I was. That's it.
Yeah. So. Just kind of delving a little tiny bit into that, I know having these sort of conversations are helpful. Do you think having more of this, normalizing the conversation and just, as you're saying, just treat everybody as they want to be treated is the way, the kind of whole thing about equity rather than kind of equality. Yeah. I think, is that a direction we should also do a little bit more in, do you think?
I think we are, Well, I was actually having a conversation with someone about this fairly recently. It's like, we don't really need trans awareness anymore. Everyone is aware of trans people. The media has made very, very sure of that. What we need is trans acceptance, and a lot of that does come down to normalizing this kind of stuff, making sure that everyone is aware of the nuances. But this is one of the reasons I like doing stuff like this. I always say that I'm loudly trans so that other people don't have to be. I will answer all of the questions that people have about being trans, because I'm quite open. I have very little filter. So I would rather the questions and the conversation was had with me, someone who was happy about doing it, than someone asks a trans person who maybe isn't quite so confident or would like to just blend into the background.
So we had a discussion about the non-binary topic previously, and one of the areas that we kind of touched upon was people don't believe that they're if they're not deliberately making a mistake, then it's okay if it's not malicious. Or do you think that's the same with a trans person, so that if someone doesn't know and they want to ask a question, it's okay to ask a question? Or how? I think people sometimes are fearful, and I think if there's things we can do to alleviate that and say, well, maybe there's no right or wrong answer, but to help
people. It depends
a
lot on the question. If it's a question that you wouldn't just ask any stranger, then, sure. If it's none of your business, stop asking. Like, the number of people who've asked me what surgery I've had, yes. And I'm like, were you planning on hooking up with me? Is that why you're asking? Because otherwise there is no need for you to know. Yes. But generally, I would rather people ask a question and me to say that's not appropriate. Mm-hmm. I'm quite happy to say I'm not going to answer that question. And if it's a question that people shouldn't be asking, then I will explain why it shouldn't be asked. But generally, if someone's just made a mistake, then my opinion is apologise and move on. Yeah. Don't draw attention to it, because I'm pretty sure every trans person has had someone who's misgendered them and then just banged on about it for 45 minutes, and you're just like, just kill me at this point. And let's just move on, forget it happened, rather than apologise over and over and over again, because that just gets awkward. Yes.
I mean, it's been amazing to talk to you about this. I mean, it really has, and so positive as well about so many of the topics. You as an individual, what personal growth have you seen over the last kind of 5 years? What has changed for you, apart from the kind of the trans topic itself? How have you grown over that time period? Are there any things you could give people advice if they're worried or if they're concerned, to help them in their thinking?
As in, if they're thinking if they want to come out as trans, yes, or yeah. Don't be scared. It's so much better than you think it's going to be. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't expect much to change, but it was wrong. My life is so much more vibrant and wonderful as a result of this. I've made so many wonderful friends. I've learned a lot about myself. And certainly as a trans woman, I can't speak on the trans mask side of things. Just starting HRT and the impact that's had on my emotions has been unreal. I don't know how much of it before was just me repressing so much stuff, but now I will cry. Something will make me very happy and I'll be so happy I will cry, and that never happened before, and it's surprising when it does for the first time, but it feels really, really good, and it has a real positive impact on your mental health, not pretending to be what you're not. So the world can be a little bit shitty towards trans people at some time, and you will have to deal with Daily Telegraph articles a couple of times a day, talking about how we're bringing around the end of civilization and how we should be made to stop. But the joy that comes from living your authentic self is easily worth that 1,000 times over.
I think that's an incredibly positive message to end on. Thank you very much, Serenity. I really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us for Brave Talks. I hope to see you in future episodes.